This morning I asked my LinkedIn, because I do have a question for you.
No worries.
So I'm just going to take to my LinkedIn real quick.
Sounds cool.
See what the question is.
Cool. What's your name?
My name is Casey Lane, Bill Hosting. Okay, so this one comes from Jessica Morgan. Can you describe a time you felt lost in your career path? What did you do and what was the outcome?
So I think for me, I felt super lost the first 18 years of my life because I wasn't a student. And in the 80s and 90s, there was no such thing as entrepreneurship in America. And the only way that you traded was based on how good of a student you were. And so for the first, kind of from 10 to 18, I had a lot of pressure being thrown at me by teachers and parents of my friends that basically painted me as a loser because I was getting D's and F's. Even though I was making $3,000 a weekend selling baseball cards, I was losing, which, built up a good skin, made me very prepared for entrepreneurship. The only time since I was 22, for the last 20 years, that I felt lost was when I knew that it was time for me to transition out of my family business, and I was worried that it would hurt my dad's feelings, right? Luckily, what manifested in that 2 to 3 years where it was kind of like starting to build was my dad also was struggling because I was starting to be the real operator of his business, and he was feeling less of a man and less of the man. So as that hit a crescendo point for both of us, it actually became easy to leave the business because we were both winning. He got to be the boss again, and I got to go on to do other things. So that would be the only, I don't want to manifest a bullshit story. I've never felt lost in operating. This is what I was meant to do. Probably no different than somebody who was meant to be a soccer player or meant to be a musician. Like, I'm purebred, I really am. I really, really am. I never was capable of doing anything but selling and branding and marketing and business long before it was cool. So I got very lucky. It's why I really push people to do what they're passionate about, because sometimes you get lucky and the world comes to you. And that's absolutely what's happened to me. The thing that I always was has now become the thing, and that's really worked out. Questions? And listen, just to give you guys context, because I know a lot of you may not know who I am, I've invested in over 200 startups. Like, I'm very comfortable answering a very detailed, subtle question that you may have on your mind for your business. Be selfish. That's what Q&A is about. And a lot of times, the question you have is 60% of the audience is also thinking of a version of it, so don't feel like you have to come up with a question that's valuable to anybody. Go real selfish. We have some time here.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. My name is Wen, and I'm the founder of SocialBit. We help brands to find high-end work with social media influencers for marketing campaigns. So my question is more personal for my business. I started this business 2 years ago, and the first year was like fun. There was a lot of pitching and everything, and very exciting. And the second year comes, and I'm always in the office coaching people, scaling the business.
You're managing.
So, yeah,
You're managing.
Sort of. So what is the next thing? Because I've been coaching for 6 months now, and I'm like, okay.
Coaching your employees?
Yeah.
Hmm?
What is the next thing for
More coaching. Wait, so here's the real question. If you don't like it, and you like the hunting and not the farming, you need to find a farming partner. Do you understand?
Yeah, because I'm also a solo founder.
Right, and so that either comes in the form of an actual partner, or you bring in a managing director, and she or he is really good at operational and HR aspects, and you're out building the brand and hunting for business.
I love the coaching part. It's just, I don't want to always be there and what's outside that I'm missing out that I'm not doing to make it go further.
Sure, but I think first of all you have to deploy patience. When you're small and you can't maybe afford the proper farming partner, you've got to eat shit. You've got to make choices. You've got two answers. You either work more so that you hunt from 7 p.m. to midnight, or you deploy patience. Cool, but don't underestimate patience. Patience is usually the reason people lose. It's hard. You have something to prove. You want to get something with the money. You want to scratch the chip on your shoulder to prove everybody that you weren't a loser because you had D's and F's. I understand why patience is hard, but it is absolutely the superpower of most successful businesses. And it is something that most young people never want to do. And then you have the subtleties of an Asian culture where there's a lot of conflict with parents.
It's very, very, very interesting to listen to some old videos of recognizing in this moment that you all don't listen in the way that he speaks, and a skill that I developed in my lifetime of being able to hear people in a way that is coming from where they're actually speaking from. So most people, when they listen to Gary Vaynerchuk, they're not listening to what he's actually saying. It's like listening to somebody talk, but not really hearing what they're saying. And you all weren't ever listening to what he had to say. No, you're not. You were listening to your way. How do I go viral? Every question that's asked, how do I look good and how do I go viral? Bragging as an opening, I've got 400,000 followers, 430,000. Starts off with, I got 437,000 followers. The next part is, how do I look good doing it? How do I get more? How do I make more money? And then it's all a dynamic of weaving in and out of your insecurities, to hide your insecurities, to create nonsense amongst a bunch of people that you're supposed to be mentoring. But it's never about the person sitting in front of you. It literally is always about you and how you're occurring to your boss so that you can make more money.
If you're taking that risk, so the quicker you're successful, the quicker you can say, see,
So none of you have taken any form of a risk. None of you did anything for anyone else. Although on the surface level, as your preparation of conversation, it might occur that way. Like verbally, it might occur as if your gossip and your nonsense is educational to someone out there. But all they're doing is mimicking each other in nonsensical, illogical conversation of living in the high life of an uplift, which was distinguished by Kamala Harris, who is also part of this Ponzi scheme.
But a lot of times that becomes the flaw because you try to overextend and then you break the whole thing.
So what they did is actually what we're watching here. This is more to do with humanity as a whole, as a global whole, than just an election. So they overextended themselves to where they're collapsing their own buildings, which I knew they would do. I just didn't know exactly when it would happen.
Be thoughtful.
And thank goodness for me, I would say, because we advanced this shit in a 4-year period versus taking centuries to unravel and weave in and out of the nonsense of what these current style of leadership in this particular generation of an evolution of society from Web 2.0 to Web 3.0, which really is just a number, and a bunch of kids trying to sound intelligent. However, they weren't involved in Web 1.0 or Web 2.0.
You know, the I told you so, ironically, is even more sweet if it takes longer, because then people are building more cynicism because you didn't do it fast.
And it has nothing to do with doing it fast. Even as quickly in the 4 years that it's happened, the cynicism of those that are already having this voluminous amount of followers, they're not getting the acceptance of what they wanted, which would be called the open rate. So in an email, it would be the opening of the email, but they're not getting the open rate because nobody likes them. So Shu Chu is doing a cover up of acting as if they're succeeding by showing bots liking their pages. But the reality is they're in the comment section and in the likes and the love section, based on the comparison of how many people are liking and loving and commenting, shows a direct reflection of that nobody's actually watching your shit. No one gives a shit about your shit. So you're talking to the air, which makes life a lot easier.